Would you want to see, like, people just tell you what happened? Or would you rather see it? Yeah, there was a lot of choices, if you could really call it that, at last weekend's box office. You could have chosen the remake of Snow White and the PR Nightmare. Yikes. Magazine Dreams with former Kang actor Jonathan Majors. Double yikes. Or The Alto Knights, the latest mob movie starring Robert Deniro and Robert De Niro. Truth be told, at the time of recording this, I didn't even hear about this movie until like a month ago. Out of the movies that came out last weekend, I chose to cover this because I'm a sucker for mob movies. I have the book, I have like the movies, like I'm a fan of the mob movies, and particularly the ones that Robert De Niro has made. Which is why, when I came out of the theater, I just did not like the feeling that I had. The Alto Knights was one of the most boring, dull, and tedious movies, let alone mob movies, that I have ever seen. It was just such a dull movie that I didn't have much to talk about to do a standard review where I'm like, here's the things I like, here's the things that are kind of mixed, here's the things that are negative. It didn't interest me, which is why instead of doing my typical review, I'm just going to talk about the things that I didn't like about it. And in particular, what I think did not work with the movie. But before we get into that, I think we should start off with a little bit of context here.
Nicholas Pileggi was born in New York City on February 22, 1933. Due to his background coming from an Italian family, he went into journalism where he specialized in crime reporting, particularly mafia-related activity.
With his background covering the mob, Pileggi eventually wrote the book Wise Guy in 1986, and he collaborated with Martin Scorsese into adapting the book into the 1990 movie Goodfellas.
Pileggi, within 5 years after Goodfellas, produced and wrote for minor projects such as Patrick Swayze's Fatherhood and Fox's mini docuseries Loyalty and Betrayal, the story of the American mob.
Eventually, Pileggi and Scorsese teamed up again to adapt and rework some of the historical elements of his other novel, which eventually became 1995's Casino. In the years after Casino, Pileggi worked on minor mob projects on both film and television before writing for The Alto Knights.
The Alto Knights, or previously titled Wise Guy, went through quite a journey on its own as it has been passed around from studio to studio since the 1970s. This project had Barry Levinson, who had directed films such as Rain Man and Good Morning Vietnam, taking the reins as director, and leaving Pileggi taking on solo writing duties.
Finally greenlit in 2022, after years of development hell and a writer's strike, The Alto Knights finally got released this year.
Two of New York City's most notorious organized crime bosses, Vito Genovese and Frank Costello, both played by Robert De Niro, vie for control of the city streets. Once best friends, petty jealousies and a series of betrayals set them on a deadly collision course.
There's a lot to like about Scorsese and Pileggi's previous mafia films together. Even if it's on film, it's quite exciting to dive into this world of crime and debauchery and to see the violence play out. The inner workings and intricacies of La Cosa Nostra, it's interesting enough for its own movie. It really is. But what's interesting about these movies over here is that Martin Scorsese, he's telling stories about the mob, but it's not really about the mob. He is using these movies as a vehicle to explore the themes of excess and greed and the other vanities that could kind of consume our soul.
People have argued for years whether Scorsese properly condemned the acts portrayed on film or really he just glamorized them. Now, I see the arguments on both sides, but I like that Scorsese, he doesn't hold your hand when diving into these worlds of crime, and he trusts that the audience will know the difference.
And really, what better vehicle could you use than the mob? Because, like, the mob, it really exemplifies those themes. It's an organization where, as long as you hold your end of the bargain, you could be whoever you want, have whatever you want, do whatever you want, with supposedly no consequences until it all comes crashing down. Real life, unlike movies and TV shows, they don't really have standard like character arcs or plot progressions. No. And while Scorsese, he certainly cares about authenticity, he is not beholden to history as it happened, as long as he feels that it does work to make a complete, whole, and satisfying story.
Scorsese will jump back and forth in the timeline, have numerous narrations, and various character POVs, but within that, he found a basic element people could latch onto, so you could invest yourself into these stories as these characters basically journey through hell.
And unfortunately, when it comes to the Alto Knights, it's not really about that. In a weird, made-for-TV historical documentary type style, you hear quick exposition, back to back to back, boom, 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 on what it was like to grow up within this crime syndicate from Vito Genovese and Frank Costello. You hear about it rather than see them actually experience it at a young age with just little glimmers of hints as to who these men will eventually become. You just hear about it. And I'm not saying that, other mob movies dove deep into, the youth of their psyche, but, they showed, little scenes that develop these characters and really put you into this world through at least one of their perspectives. These important character moments that are essential for getting you to even give a damn about anybody, they're tossed aside just to historically tell you what happened. And it's so frustrating. It just makes the story boring when you don't care about anybody. It is so boring. Whenever you see Vito and Frank, whenever they're older men, you see the consequences of things that happened in their youth, the consequences of things that they experienced whenever they were young and forged their own path. The problem is, you don't really get to see any of it. It's just told to you, and it's so boring. It's hard to, invest yourself within the story or these characters whenever the script, it, keeps it, an arm's length away from the characters. It's so frustrating. The only way that you could get any enjoyment from this movie is if, you were already, a mega fan of, mob history. You were, an aficionado for, all things mob in terms of what happened in the past. That's the only way that you could get enjoyment out of it. But even if you were a fan of it, I'd like to ask you, would you rather, if you go see a movie about the mob, would you want to see, people just tell you what happened? Or would you rather see it? Would you want to see it play out with a budget? Would you? I would. I mean, getting told, what happens, with a big budgeted movie? What the hell, man? That's boring!
Without putting words into Pileggi's mouth, it seems that he sought to focus more on the historical mob element with the Alto Knights, acting as the concluding chapter of an unofficial mob trilogy. According to an interview with MovieWeb, Pileggi states, "If you think about, I've done 3 movies on the mob in a way, and its history. The first was Goodfellas, which is how these young guys got started. They're all young and they're all hungry and it all goes bad. The second was Casino. This is when you get the mob and you give them millions and millions of dollars and they open up casinos and they still screw it up. And this was the end of that world."
Scorsese's unofficial mob trilogy ending with The Irishman, I feel is a way more poignant ending to potentially not only the genre of mafia movies, but even to his run of mafia movies. It's a meta-commentary on his impact within the genre while indicting the glamorization of the mob that he, in a way, unintentionally helped start. It's a better indictment and ending, unfortunately, than The Alto Knights. The Alto Knights, it just acts as it's a mildly interesting Wikipedia article that I read and then, I forget about a day later. As I mentioned before, this movie is just way too muddled, telling you about the history of the story, rather than explore the characters within it. And what's infuriating about all of this? There is a tragic human story that is barely tapped within this thing. Vito wants to violently take back this power that he gave Frank, but Frank, he wants to give back the power to Vito, peacefully, without any issues, and just leave the organization for good. There is great potential in a story that tells about how the thirst for power, it can not only destroy, the bonds of friendship and brotherhood that anyone has, but it can also destroy the thing that you both were into in the first place. And what sucks about it is that I do think that the elements are there, and that was the point of Robert Deniro portraying both Frank and Vito. They both came from the same background. They are, in a way, the same person. I think if the script was just a little more focused on the character aspects of it, you would have had like a great send-off for potentially Robert De Niro doing mob movies, but more importantly, a better send-off for Nicholas Pileggi. As it is, it's just, it goes out with a whimper. Like, this is a very disappointing movie. De Niro's performances and the set designs and really just like the basic dressings of this world that you could put into your production, it can only like carry you so far. Which is why, unfortunately, I would give this movie like a 4 out of 10. I really wanted to love this movie. I really did. Unfortunately, I think that besides like everyone getting older and like that history getting further and further away, it's a sign of the times that maybe it's time to put this genre to rest. The Sopranos, and really like anything that Scorsese decides to do with the remainder of his career, if he chooses to tell it. I think that that is the last hurrah that this genre is going to get. Unless like you radically do something crazy different that finally is original and deviates away from the style that Scorsese made so great. So what do you think? Do you think that the gangster genre has reached its natural end? Do you even like mob movies? Did you like Alto Knights? Comment below and let me know. And of course, thank you guys so much for getting to the end of the video. My goal by the middle of the year is to get to about 350 subscribers. And potentially, depending on how things go, my goal by the end of the year is to get to 500 subscribers. Any help that you can give to this channel would be greatly, greatly appreciated. My name is Douglas Campbell, aka Film Stash. If you excuse me, I gotta add to the stash.